Welcome back to the NCUT movie review. Today we have Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim. And seriously, my car actually got stolen, and it's still not the worst thing that happened to me that day. Watching this was.
The plot of the film picks up around 200 years before Bilbo Baggins steals the ring off Gollum, and it picks up about 183 years before Peter Jackson's trilogy starts. The lore for this movie obviously came from the appendices from Lord of the Rings 1954 that Tolkien wrote. Now, the war between the Rohirrim and the Dunlendings happened. Helm Hammerhand was an influential character for the Rohirrim and Rohan itself. That all happened. But the character of Hera does not exist. She was completely written in for this movie, and quite honestly, you can tell. Because her impact in the movie overall wasn't really that important, and throughout the movie you just thought, she's really just there as just a side piece for Helm Hammerhand, who was essentially the main character, or his sons, who were the main characters, or Wolf, who was the leader of the Dunlendings. We walked away at the end of this movie and thought she was pretty much useless throughout the whole movie, and they had to create a moment for her to actually have an impact on the movie, which was she uses the eagles, which is literally almost impossible for anyone who's of mortal beings to use the eagles to help in their plight. I mean, Gandalf, the most wisest man in the whole of Middle-earth, was able to use the eagles to his advantage. And then this random girl who's a lineage of Helm Hammerhand is able to do it. I mean, it makes absolutely no sense. Now, the animation itself just didn't feel very, very coherent at all. And also sort of made you feel a little bit dizzy when you're watching on the screen. It was almost the way it chopped and changed. It felt odd. Like it was in a 2D scape sort of animation. And it just felt very weird. Like it has very similar aspects to Hayao Miyazaki's films, you know, Boy and the Heron, all those different movies that he's done. Because it felt that way, but it just didn't have the same beautifulness as The Boy and the Heron did, or any of his other titles that he had. It sort of felt, the colours on the screen just didn't feel quite coherent. I mean, of course, they're trying to create wartime, battles, people being attacked on horseback, but it just didn't feel quite as coherent as what we've seen before with other Japanese anime movies that have been brought on the big screen.
That's probably because when you watch this film, a lot of the pacing is just off. The scene management was horrific. There's something massive that happens on the screen, and then it chops and changes to the other character's face, and immediately cuts back. It almost like didn't make sense why you needed to see the main character's face, because it would chop from that main character, then to the beast, which is like some elephant that's high on drugs, and then right back to the main character, and it just changed so quickly. It almost was like trying to give you a seizure. It was really, really quickly done, and that pacing just kind of throws you off immediately just watching this.
Yes, let's jump straight into that. The movie itself was trying to throw so much lore into this movie while also shoving in a character who'd never existed. So the bits that felt coherent and bits that felt like they worked well were the parts that existed. Like they just add these extra scenes in for Hera to sort of build up her character, and it just sort of didn't feel like it meshed at all. When Helm Hammerhand and his sons were going to war, or when Wolf was trying to rise up and avenge his father, that all worked. But then they would throw in scenes with Hera, and you're just like, they had no impact at all. They had no impact whatsoever. I mean, she's supposed to be this all outlandish, wild sort of version. She doesn't quite conform to being royalty like her brother and her father are. But then you never see that, because for the rest of the movie, she just speaks like a royal the whole time. And
treated as such too. The entire time she's treated like a royal. And it's a little contradictory, because we say that the movie is pushing very long scenes and big character development, yet when you're watching this, you feel no development.
None at all.
It's so weird. Like you're watching it and you're like, okay, I'm trying to get into this, and all of a sudden it just dies at the arse and they change it to the real story.
Yeah.
It's like they didn't know where to put her in and how to kind of maneuver her way through this story. And that was very evident watching this.
The only character development came from Wolf. And quite honestly, when Wolf was on the screen the whole time, it was like, cool, I like this character, I like this guy a lot. I love his vengeance, I love his veracity, I love the fact that he wants to avenge his father. You never leave the son of a murdered king alive. You never do it, because they're always coming back for vengeance, right?
Father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife, and I will have my vengeance in this life or the next.
But even Wolf towards the end of the movie just sort of divulges into nothingness. Like he just becomes this sort of shell of himself, which I mean would happen. They've been in winter for a long siege, fair enough. But the first sort of half of the film, Wolf's character pretty much is the only character development you see. And Helm Hammerhand, he has some development towards the end, which is really cool. And I would have loved to have seen a whole movie of that. But then they just don't do enough of it.
Yeah, he was the outstanding character in this. The action scenes were really, really good, but then you're watching the character development and you're like, this is fucking boring. Like watching this is just, I'm literally looking at my watch like, is this ended yet?
Yeah, and he's also voiced by Brian Cox, which is really good because, Brian Cox has such a distinguishable voice. If you're going to have a king who had the ancient blood in him that was 7 foot, 8 foot tall and just led everyone, had the hammer of Thor with him, you think Brian Cox would be that guy with the voice. So that they got right. They stuck to the lore with Helm Hammerhand in the way that it was written, except for I don't think he would have told his daughter that you can lead the kingdom, because she didn't lead the kingdom. So why would he say that to her?
You serious?
By the way, why is he fucking banished? Can we just get into that for a little bit? The cousin is banished for not being there for 2.5 milliseconds of this journey that she's on. And she gets a little cut on her face, which was also inaccurate. If you're watching this closely, one scene, she has a cut on her face. And then the next scene, she doesn't have a cut on her face. Then the scene following that, the cut's back there. It's an animated movie, I understand. But if you're looking at a fine detailing of a movie, you should be looking into that. You should be looking for those little plot holes and mistakes, because if you're not looking for that, how can I care about the movie?
And that's a good point Josh brings up. Frealaf carries in this movie. In the scenes that Frealaf is on there, you actually feel like, okay, this guy is noble. He's trying to instruct Helm Hammerhand, like, okay, you shouldn't do this, you should do that. Like, I'm always your sword for life. I loved Frealaf's character. I don't quite understand, and they don't explain it at all in the movie, why he retreats to Dunharrow and then stays there for the duration of the siege and then decides only to come when the Eagles come. Like, he obviously, if his king hadn't showed up, he would have gone, okay, we've got to go out and find our king. But for some reason, he just stays in Dunharrow, and then he almost thinks he's going to leave there and just abandon Rohan to just die and be at Wolf's hands. And maybe that was explained a bit further in Tolkien's writings, and I missed that, but I don't understand why Frealaf just waited. He clearly wanted to fight by the side of Helm Hammerhand. So why was he just waiting in the mountains, retreating, and just being like, we've got to wait till we get notified? Like, that made no sense to me, that side of things. The other thing that, irked me in this movie, this essentially makes Aowyn's character not useless, but her triumph in the original trilogy, where she takes down the King of the Nazgul, it essentially makes it nothingness, because now there was a shield maiden 200 years prior that did just as bigger things as she did. It's like, no. Aowyn was the one who came in. The King of the Nazgul can't be killed by a man, so who comes in? Aowyn and kills him. Like, that was a huge moment. It's not like there hasn't been women in Lord of the Rings before. You have Aowyn, you have Arwen, you have Lady Galadriel. Like, the women are in the Lord of the Rings. So that's why I don't understand why they just fabricated this whole narrative. I don't understand it.
And it would have been really good if she died and none of this was logged down. It would make sense. It would be like, okay, we get it. This was just a little story, added, fill it in here, and we got to see a little bit of an animation towards a good lore building movie. But unfortunately,
she lives.
She fucking lives. And then by the way, to seal it, they tell you she lived to the end of her days and had a good time. They didn't even say anything else. They literally narrated that ending. It was so stupid. Where about that cuck guy? Isn't he a messenger? Can't he run his little ass over to go?
Leaf was the worst.
The worst character
I
ever.
hope Leaf dies. We didn't see it, but I hope Leaf is dead. Because he was the worst character I've ever seen in my life. All he did was just cry on the screen. Like, what the fuck? What was the point of that character?
He was crying that he had to carry equipment upstairs.
Yeah.
Brother,
It's your job.
You're literally in a fucking war zone. I think that's worse if you're in a war zone than just carrying a little box
these
up.
guys going out and dying in war, and Leaf's like, oh, I've got to carry this box up the hill. Like, come on, guy.
Yeah, come
Seriously.
on. Listen, you should be the one on that fucking siege bridge, the one who was drumming the thing and falling onto it and dying. That should be your position.
Your name is Leaf as well. So, like, you're named after a freaking foliage off a tree. Relax. And a few other things that just didn't really make any sense in this film. Hera, we were shown throughout the whole film that she lost every single sword fight or battle that she was in. Like, she was pretty much weak, okay? She's quite young, I believe. At the crescendo of the film, when she has to fight Wolf, who is a proven warrior, who has literally risen up to become the leader of the Dunlendings, and yet he gets defeated by Hera, who throughout the whole film gets defeated. I mean, she got kidnapped, they put a bag on her head, and she became incapacitated. She could not fight it. Like, to take the bag off, love. So that just made no sense. I don't understand how, like, she just magically can... She puts a wedding dress on and she can beat him in a battle.
Can we talk about that wedding dress for a second? It's in the middle of, like, Helm's winter. This kills the biggest 7-foot leader of king over Hal Hammerhand, and he doesn't survive it, yet she can survive it in a wedding dress that's backless. She's literally got all skin to the rest of the snow.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And then she beats Wolf, and apparently the guy's a cuck as well. He turns to a cuck at the end. Why?
I mean, Wolf also had one job too, and that was to get revenge on Helm Hammerhand and his sons. He did that, and then he's just like, I want to kill her too now. Like, why, man?
And as I said in the intro, my car literally got stolen, and I would rather it get stolen than watch this film again. That's how bad this was. I was just bored. It wasn't like a horrible movie or anything. That's a little bit of hyperbole, but it was just boring to watch because a lot of inconsistencies. There was a lot of filler scenes where I thought you could cut all of this and just move along the narrative, because a lot of it was based around the other people, even though she was supposed to be at the forefront of the film. That really didn't translate onto screen very well. I thought that if you kept, Helm Hammerhand on screen basically the whole time, I really would have enjoyed this. And or his sons, because they, like, if he sacrificed his life for them, probably would have been better. But you know, him walking up a 100-meter ramp and then them taking 6 months to get to him while he's talking to her, and he's, you know, got the strength of Thor so he can pull open these 2 doors.
Why didn't he shut the door?
And he's just talking to her.
Why didn't he shut the door?
He could have slipped in there, had dinner, and then come back out and then still died. That's how long it took.
I know that's law accurate. That's how Helm Hammerhand died. But why didn't he shut the door?
It's stupid.
We're changing all this other law. Let's change the law that he goes inside the gate, shuts the door, boom, done. Helm Hammerhand's alive.
Exactly.
And then the movie continues on. Not to mention, right, this is a pivotal thing that happens, okay? Helm Hammerhand becomes a phantom. He becomes a whisper in the night. He's attacking Wolf's legions one by one, and he's creating like some sort of a myth around him that he's the ghost of Helm Hammerhand, out for vengeance, he's killing everyone. Hera wants to go find her dad. She's like, okay, I'm gonna go find him. She goes down a secret passage, she finds her father, then she gets trapped by some goblins. This teases towards events in the trilogy. There's goblins looking for rings. We all know Sauron's looking for the rings. Okay, that's real. That happens. She gets captured. Then all of a sudden, they're fighting a troll. Wolf's people here, they're like, go find out what that was. Her father comes and saves her. And she says to her father, one man can't fight an army. He can't take out all of Wolf's people. But he actually was. He literally was taking them all out. So what does she mean by that? Wolf's men were scared. They were literally scared that the phantom of Helm Hammerhand was going to come and kill them. He was taking out the whole army. Hera comes down. One man can't take out the whole army. I think they can. Because he was.
He's been doing it literally for the past 30 minutes.
All of Wolf's people were like, oh, we're ready to retreat. We want to get the fuck out of here. Helm Hammerhand's destroying us all. And it's like, what the fuck? At the end of the movie, Frealaf comes down with Helm's stuff on, and they go, the phantom of Helm Hammerhands is real, and they all retreat. So he literally was just winning the war by himself. Not to mention, people, instead of staying in Rohan, Hera goes, I'm going on an adventure. I received a letter from someone. The Shield Maiden goes, who'd you receive the letter from? Oh, from a wizard. He's inquiring about the goblins that were looking for the rings, and he wants to find out about why they were looking for the rings. So you're telling me that Hera is the one that told Gandalf that Sauron is back. That Sauron was looking for the rings. Hera! An unknown shield maiden. Come on, people. Gandalf does not need her advice. He's the smartest being in the whole of Middle-earth, aside from Saruman before Saruman became, infected by the rings. But you're telling me that she told Gandalf these things. That's not true. How dare you do that to Gandalf, and how dare you bring him down to such a level? I can't believe it.
Blasphemous.
It just is, and that's all I have to say about this goddamn movie.
Exactly.
It was just boring. Give my man Helm Hammerhand, purple-headed people eater, the fucking keys to this whole movie.
Exactly.
He was great. Wolf was great. Frealaf was great, but everything else in this movie was just boring.
So let's wrap this review up. Don't go watch it. Don't even waste your time with it. I would prefer not to have seen this, and not for my car that got stolen. Thank you very much.
We don't have a problem with characters who don't exist and creating them, but at least make it worthy. Or don't just put them in a story that already exists and be like, oh yeah, just put her here and put her there and then do this and that. Like that, no. Create a whole new story. That's all I'll say.
Or a better one.
It's got me amped up, man.
So if you guys enjoyed the review, do not forget to leave a like and subscribe. Sub it up, baby. We're trying to hit 600 at the moment. What, we got 33 left or something? We're trying to hit them numbers.
No one was craving this from Sony. People need to appreciate how good that title is, okay?
It's almost like Brent Lee didn't die for this and everyone else didn't die for this shit.
Facts.
Incredible titles.
Facts. Question of the day. Who's your favourite character in The Lord of the Rings everything? For me, it has to be Boromir. I just love Boromir so much. I would have died for you. My brother. My king.
I would have followed you, my brother. My captain. My king.
I don't really know. Is it Aragorn? Is that his name?
Aragorn's a king.
Okay, that's mine.
Yeah.
I don't really know too many things. Anyway, guys, peace. We out.
Peace.
And cut.